Human beings are God's greatest creation. We are beings of intellect and creativity who have accomplished the seemingly impossible. We've discovered extraordinary species and cures for sickness. However, this progress has introduced a new dilemma. Must we endanger or kill life in order to improve or save it? We promote the saving of animals while testing, abusing, and containing them in isolation. Why is it that a scientist can go home and play with his or her pet and return back to the laboratory to test chemicals on a cat? As Christians, what is the most moral and ethical way to improve human life while still being stewards of creation? Animal testing is a common source of experimentation throughout the world and has been practiced in many countries for a long time. Vivisection, the action of dissecting a living body, was one of the main ways of studying animals for medical and scientific purposes. From ancient times to the modern age, vivisection has helped make revolutionary discoveries such as the anatomy of the human body, the cardiopulmonary system, and the development of bacteriology and immunology. One of the most popular uses for animals in the modern age is commercial testing. Commercial products include drugs, cosmetics, pesticides, and food additives. Toxicology and irritation tests experiment on animals to ensure product safety on consumers. The eyes and skins of animals are particularly tested on to identify any hazards or adverse effects. However, the concept of animal utilization, the absence of pain relief medication, and the increased demand for live subjects has led to the development of the cruelty-free movement, in which animal regulations and laws were made. Britain was the first to act, creating the Cruelty to Animals Act in 1876, which ensured for the first time that the welfare of animals was a legitimate consideration. It was not until 1966 when America finally put the first federal animal law into place, called the Animal Welfare Act. It regulated the transport, sale, and handling of animals for researchers and laboratories. Thus, scientists and veterinarians created the Guide for the Care and Use of Animals to establish minimum ethical, practice, and care standards for researchers and their institutions. For instance, the 3 R's, replacement, refinement, reduction, are used during any type of animal research or testing. Replace the animals with alternative methods, refine the experiment to minimize pain, and reduce the number of animals used. Although it is required to follow these guidelines, there is limited flexibility when choosing the type of testing method. Even though there are better replacements for animals, they cannot be used and must go along with the standard. Additionally, all humans and animals have the capacity to feel pain, although some are more sentient than others. To be sentient is to have the power of perception by the senses, or to have consciousness. The neuroanatomical, chemical, and physiological parts of animals indicate that they possess the ability to feel. As such, laws establish standards for humane treatment and housing of lab animals to minimize pain and discomfort in order to achieve the desired results. They encourage researchers to limit or seek alternatives while following the guideline of the 3 R's. Although animals are tested for many biomedical and commercial purposes, I argue that most animal testing, such as cosmetics and commercial testing, should be made illegal in America. Not only are they unreliable and more expensive than alternative methods, but most importantly, they are cruel and inhumane. Since humans rule over the animal kingdom, researchers and scientists think they can justify exploitation of the animal world, crushing nature to bring us food, power, and wealth. Animals are exploited, deformed, poisoned, and killed, living a life of pain and suffering under the careless eyes of misguided people who do not understand God and His moral laws. These cruel acts are being hidden beneath the veil of consumerism and ambition. We may rule the natural world, but it is not ours to abuse and destroy, but rather it is entrusted to our care. God created animals for a reason, and it is most definitely not for them to live out their lives miserably in tiny cages. We must implement alternative methods and refrain from using such inhumane styles of experimenting. Among the many types of testing that animals are used for, the most common and most replaceable, cosmetics testing, should be banned. Animals are brutally tortured with wounds, injections, and defects just so that we can look good. Mascara is poured into the eyes of rabbits to see the irritation level of the product, and other small animals suffer from chemical burns on their skin. Why hurt and use animals when we can replace them with better methods that are more humane and reliable? Testing on animals means spending more money and more time to get results that are not as accurate and cost and time efficient as alternative methods. Today, alternative tests can be conducted in a day, whereas animal tests require weeks or even months to achieve results. The media, experimenters, and lobbying groups exaggerate the potential of animal experiments to lead to new cures and the roles that they have played in past medical advances. Researchers from Harvard School of Medicine and Boston University have examined studies that conducted animal tests and have concluded that they often fail to predict human responses because traditional animal models do not accurately mimic human physiology. Thus, alternative testing is becoming more preferred for medicine and products. New technologies used in alternative methods, such as mathematical and computer-generated models, stem cell and human tissue research, epidemiological studies, sophisticated high-fidelity human patient simulators, and cadavers have decreased the number of animals tested each year. Alternative methods save animals from being sliced, injected with chemicals, mutation, maiming, blinding, burning, causing brain damage, and other painful and invasive procedures. For instance, American researchers Thomas Harding and his colleagues from Johns Hopkins University have created a remarkable mini brain that acts as a brain cell. These revolutionary cells are developed from pluripotent induced adult cells to help allay ethical concerns over using human tissue for testing and development. Once these mini brains have grown, they could help scientists study a huge range of conditions such as Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease, multiple sclerosis, autism, viral infections, trauma, and stroke. Not only are these mini brains reliable, but they are also inexpensive, as the ones that Brown University created cost only 25 US cents to make. Furthermore, many Christians and non-Christians misinterpret the Bible to use it and justify their reasons for testing on animals. Christian Medical Fellowship, an organization of Christian doctors, describes the text in Genesis calling us to rule over animals has been used by others to justify exploitation of the animal world. Yet, animals are also God's creation and are expressions of his wisdom and glory. Humans are meant to rule and have dominion over animals, but how we are to rule over them should be modeled after how Jesus rules over us. Although Jesus is perfect and sinless, we should strive to follow after his attributes of respect towards creation. We can infer his exhibition of attitude towards creation in Proverbs 12:10, which states, "Whoever is righteous has regard for the life of his beast." A modern interpretation of this is that virtuous people ought to look for the best interests of animals. Christians must consider the lives of animals and treat them accordingly to their purposes and proper uses, such as food, companionship, and transportation if necessary. Christ's dominion of the earth does not simply imply domination, but rather service and nonviolence. A controversial matter that people argue for is that many experiments are not painful to animals and are therefore justified. However, biology and veterinary medicine have proved that some animals have similar chemical and neurological pain mechanisms as humans. Primates, for example, are very similar in this way to humans. It can be assumed that they experience pain similarly as to how humans experience it. Although we may not know what all or other types of animals are feeling, their anatomy, such as neurons, spindle cells, and pain receptors, and their behavior show that they are hurting. So even though two creatures may be experiencing pain differently, they are still feeling pain. In their tiny cages, stressed and traumatic animals react physiologically like humans, such as releasing chemicals or having an increased heartbeat. Their behavior obviously shows that they are undergoing trauma or pain when they whimper or shake, or refuse food, or cower in their tiny cages. Experimenters have acknowledged that animals that show behavior indicating extreme psychological stress jeopardize the validity of the data, medication, and products produced. Small factors of changes in temperature, humidity, light regime, and noise intensity all contribute to the animal's stress. The way the animal reacts affects the outcome of the experiment, altering the expected results to be deemed inaccurate. Professor von Monemy of environmental science and environmental ethics states that even having their cages moved has found to be a sufficient enough stressor to alter 19% to 25% measured blood characteristics associated with stress and strain in some lab animals. These findings jeopardize the results of all tests on animals. Although animal testing has revolutionized the scientific and medical world, we must use all possible efforts to utilize alternative methods that are more accurate, reliable, and inexpensive. We need to wake up and face the problems of what we are doing to God's creation and to ourselves. Animals are not just creatures. They are living beings that feel and breathe. We must employ alternative methods in order to transform medicine, discover more ways to cure sickness, and ultimately save more lives. Our decisions can lead to a greater and brighter future for America. Thank you.